Yeah, well, I absolutely love where our team is as we continue to grow and we continue to get better as a team. I felt like this past week our toughness and our resiliency that we have really shone through. I like that we have momentum coming off of this week going into this upcoming week, and I like how we're continuing to build that. I think our defense still keeps us really steady. You look at our two games this past week, you look at Tulane, you look at the way that we had great pace and great rhythm and great balance offensively, but it was really our defense that held us steady in that game. And then you look at this past game, a little bit of a slower start, took us a little bit to get going, but it was our defense that came through after that first quarter in that second, third, fourth, and in overtime. I thought our defense was outstanding in that we continue to grow offensively and find our sync and find our rhythm a little bit. I think that Delaney Crawford just continues to majorly carry our team on that side of the ball. And then you look at what Maddie Cartwright is doing and the way that she's stepping up on both ends of the floor and contributing a lot for us, both defensively and offensively. And then we always have, Hadley Perriman, and you have Paige Bradley, and Crystal Eisen has been big for us in these last few games. I will say it, and I will say it confidently. I feel like our heart and our fight of this team is unmatched. It is elite. It is at the highest level. Every time we go between the lines, we know that we're going to war. And I really believe that we have a team that believes in each other and believes in what that next step can be for our team.
I think your comment after the game on the comeback was kind of our DNA, our fight defensively that you have. How much of that is what you work on internally and externally as a group? How much of that is just in the young ladies that you're going out and recruiting?
Yeah, well, I think it's certainly something that we look for in recruiting. We look for those things like what's their competitive excellence, right? And so what's their competitive spirit? And then you grow that. You grow that collectively as a team. They grow it in each other. As a coach, we get to create these challenges and these different adversities that they get to have during practice to kind of see that continue to grow. So I think it's a combination of both. And, I love that it's the DNA and the makeup of our team, because I think you look at all scores all across the country down the stretch, and the overtimes and the double overtimes and the upsets and all those things. And I just think that the game honors that fight and the game honors that toughness. And I think that our team has it.
Is that a luxury that you're aware of during the course of a game, that you've kind of got that in your back pocket? You don't want to be down at any point, but there's kind of something in your head that's like, you know what, we're not ever really out of anything.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like I said a minute ago, like our team really believes in each other, and I don't believe that there's a challenge that's put in front of them that they don't think that they can overcome. And I absolutely love that about this team. When we go into timeouts, when we go into halftime, there's just a belief, and you see it and you feel it. And honestly, it was a 20-point deficit, and what we're thinking and what we're feeling is we're just going to chip away. We're just going to chip away little by little. We have these goals along the way for okay, we want to get it down to this. We want to get it down to this. We want to get it down to this. And then once we get going in the way that they feed off of each other, it's just an amazing thing.
At what point in that game did you feel like you had turned the corner from just chipping away to, hey, we have got a really legitimate chance to come back and win the game?
I felt like we had a legitimate chance to come back and win the game, the entire game, because we felt like we had time, like when we had the second half, we felt like we had time to do that. And when you did that little by little, you begin to kind of feel those rewards. I felt like our press was a major factor in that, in creating some offense off of our defense with our turnovers. I really felt like when we took the lead for the first time, there was no stopping this team. Whenever we banked in that three whenever Delaney hit that 3 late clock to take the lead, I felt like at that point, our players were just going to continue to roll.
What does the comeback completely erase the stuff that you do to get behind that far, or after a day or two, how do you address, hey, we're really excited that we did this, but then we're also a little less excited that we did what we did to get to that point to have to do that in the end?
Yeah, well, I think it's like every game. You have these learning opportunities, and you get to decide which of those are you going to emphasize, which of those are you going to, have conversations about one-on-one, which one of those are you going to emphasize as your team as we go in and we watch film and we continue to grow. And we do that after every game. One thing that I really like about our team is the way that we just stay level-headed through it all, right? The way that we know and that we objectively are able to look at these things that we need to do different and need to do a little bit better. Like we've talked about before, our players have high expectations for themselves already. And so it's a matter of dealing with some of those discouraging moments in the game whenever they know they're in a position where they've been successful before and sometimes the ball just doesn't go through the basket, and seeing that and continuing to have confidence and continuing to believe is a big part of what we do.
You had talked a lot early in the year about how happy you were with Maddie Cartwright, especially defensively, and doing a lot of the things that you wanted her to do. What in the last couple of games has kind of turned her on offensively?
Yeah, well, I think our team is sharing the ball extremely well. And so some of those shots where that may have been earlier in the season, somewhat contested a little bit, are now becoming a little bit more open because of the fact that we're being able to share the ball more. We're being able to pass the ball and get the defense playing out of closeouts a little bit more. And Maddie is she's so multifaceted offensively. She has the ability to put the ball on the floor. She has the ability to shoot her mid-range jumper, and she has the ability to shoot the three. What she's doing right now, she's 50% over the last couple games, and we want her to continue to shoot those. As you see an extended range, and when she has that extended range, now that's going to open up some other dimensions of her game that she already has that we get to see in practice.
What are the most important things for you to be working toward with 3 games left in the regular season?
Well, I still think it's a process. It's a process, step-by-step process for us, right? It's still a process focus. It's still about growth. It's how are we going to be our best today? How are we going to continue to build on this momentum that we have from this week going into facing, a good South Florida team that we know is going to be challenging, but we know we're also eager to step on the floor and compete.
Coach, as fast as you guys, with your pace and that, a lot of teams that run at that sort of pace have to outscore people, but now with your defense playing as well as it is, do you think you're positioned pretty well for postseason in that you can win different ways?
Yeah, I feel like we certainly have a versatile team, both offensively and defensively. We've seen a lot of different looks, that of the way that teams are trying to guard us and strategize, for us offensively, and that's going to benefit us in the long run, the way that we've been able to adapt and adjust in some of those situations. And then defensively, I feel like we're versatile to be able to do what we need to do in the game to be able to create the most success for our team. I think that in order to do that, you have to have a team that's incredibly bought in, and this team is incredibly bought into each other. They're incredibly bought into our culture. They're incredibly bought into these moments right now that are so critical at the end of February to get your momentum and to keep going.
I'm not going to ask you to disparage your previous teams, but is this the best defensive team that you've had here?
I think numbers-wise would say so, yeah, for sure. And I do believe it is one of the best defensive teams that we've had here. You see their heart, you see their fight. I think one of the things that's been fun this year is to see their growth on the rebounding side of the ball, to be able to see their growth, to have some different styles of defenses that we put on the floor, to see their growth in their coverages and their communication. We're not there yet, but I really like our trajectory and kind of where we are and how we're growing right now.
You mentioned DNA a lot, and last year you came from behind a lot, to win games. This year you start off 16 points down to Arkansas Pine Bluff, and then of course this recent game. So it is kind of part of who you are to never give up and always battle back and never say die, right?
Well, I think it just shows the grittiness and the toughness of our team. We talk about toughness, the ability to stay positive, stay together, and to just keep moving forward, right? And when a team can do that, their chances are pretty good.
You guys are right on the heels of 2 other teams with 3 kind of conference games left, sitting in the 6th spot. If you get to the 5 spot, you move out of that play-in portion of the conference tournament. How valuable would that be if you guys are able to leapfrog one of those remainder teams and avoid that first round and kind of cut out one game in the conference tournament for you?
Yeah, well, we know that there's, 3 games left, and it's funny because you look at it and it doesn't seem like very much, and then at the same time, when you look at the standings and the percentages and the rankings, there's a lot left to play. I think after these next couple games, you'll see people kind of slide into those slots where it'll be for the seeding for the conference tournament, but we're still climbing, we're still fighting, and we're still right there. Again, we see that and we know that, but our focus is going to be being our best today, being our best tomorrow, being our best when we step on the floor on Wednesday.
Scouting report on South Florida. Well, like they won 9 in a row. I think 15 of 17 seem to be like just the model of consistency in the conference.
Yeah, well, for sure, South Florida is a very talented team, and they're well coached, and they're very balanced. They have a lot of different weapons offensively, and then defensively. They're a tough defensive team that's been holding teams. I mean, in the 60s. I mean, whenever they face teams that are getting into the 70s, that's when they tend to struggle a little bit. So they certainly want to control that pace of play. There's going to be a lot of different players for them that have a lot of different scoring options. They tend to run a lot of sets, but also have the ability to get out and run a little bit and really hurt people with some transition options that they have. And so for us, it's going to be making sure that we can, maintain our transition defense and then being able to get stops in the half court.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks.